The year is 216 BC. The Second Punic War rages on. Roman legions, disciplined and unbreakable, march toward the battlefield, ready to clash with Hannibal's forces. But then, a blinding flash. The earth trembles. In an instant, the battlefield is erased. Legions turned to dust. War elephants vaporized. A towering mushroom cloud rises, stretching into the heavens. Silence follows. History is rewritten. This is not how history played out. But what if it did? What if Romans, masters of war, held the power of the nukes in their hands? Would they rule forever or doom themselves? Welcome to a world where the Roman Empire had nukes. Let's get started. Rome's hunger for total domination. For centuries, Rome didn't just fight wars. It devoured civilizations. Every nation that stood in its way was either crushed under its legions or forced to kneel. To the Romans, war wasn't a last resort. It was a way of life. Think about it. While other empires fought to defend themselves, Rome fought to expand. Their philosophy was simple: conquer or be conquered. When they marched into battle, they weren't just after victory. They wanted absolute control. Imagine the Mongols, who swept across Asia like a storm, or the British Empire, which stretched across the globe. Now take that level of ambition and give it to a civilization that worshipped war as if it were a god. Rome was playing a game of world domination before the world even knew what that meant. And the terrifying part is that they were good at it. Look at their war against Carthage. For decades, Carthage was Rome's greatest rival, a superpower with a navy that ruled the Mediterranean. But Rome didn't want a truce. They wanted Carthage erased from history, and that's exactly what they did. After years of brutal warfare, the Roman general Scipio stood outside the gates of Carthage and gave the order. The city burned for 17 days. The survivors? Sold into slavery. The land? Salted, so nothing would ever grow there again. Now, imagine if Rome had nukes. Would they have wasted 17 days burning a city? Of course not. They would have vaporized it in seconds. And here's where things get terrifying. With nuclear weapons, Rome wouldn't just be a powerful empire, it would be an unchallenged god. To understand how terrifying this would be, let's imagine Rome developing nuclear weapons centuries ahead of time. The birth of Roman nukes. Rome, with its obsession for power, had already mastered the art of war. But what if they had unlocked something far greater? The ability to end wars before they even began. Let's step into an alternate timeline. Deep in the African provinces, a Roman scholar named Gaius Octavius stumbles upon something strange: a rock, pulled from the depths of a collapsed mountain. It glows faintly in the dark. The local miners refuse to touch it, calling it the breath of Pluto, the god of the underworld. But Octavius isn't afraid. He takes it back to Rome, where he begins experimenting. At first, the effects are subtle. Slaves working near the rock grow weak, their skin turning pale. Some die mysteriously. The scholars notice water placed near it starts to warm unnaturally. Metals decay faster, and animals refuse to go near it. Something about this rock is alive. But in Rome, power is never ignored. If it can kill slowly, can it kill instantly? The emperor orders secret tests. Roman engineers, already masters of concrete, aqueducts, and siege warfare, now turn their minds toward harnessing the fire of the gods. Over decades, they refine a process to weaponize the cursed rock. And then, it happens. In the vast emptiness of the Sahara Desert, Rome conducts its first nuclear test. A blinding flash. A fireball swallows the sky. The shockwave turns sand into glass. In that moment, Rome doesn't just rule the world, it rules the laws of nature itself. But what happens when an empire that thrives on war no longer has to fight? A world under Rome's nuclear shadow. The first Roman nuke had been tested. The desert still smoldered. But in Rome, something far more dangerous had ignited: the idea that no enemy could ever stand against them again. For centuries, Rome had won through brute force. Their legions crushed cities, their war machines battered walls. But now they didn't need legions. They didn't need war machines. They had the power to erase entire civilizations with a single command. And the world knew it. Imagine being a ruler in this new world order. You're the king of Parthia, the only empire that ever stood toe-to-toe with Rome. You fought them for years, draining their resources, bleeding their legions dry. But then one day, a messenger arrives in your palace. He carries no declaration of war, no threat. Just a simple demand: swear loyalty to Rome, or witness what happened to Carthage on a scale beyond imagination. What do? You've seen what happened in the Sahara. You've heard whispers of an entire city, wiped from the earth in an instant. You look at your family, your people, your kingdom, and you realize you never had a choice. This is no longer conquest. It's submission before the first sword is drawn. In today's world, this is called nuclear deterrence. The idea that if one nation has nukes, no one dares to challenge them. But here's the terrifying part. Rome wasn't a democracy. There were no checks, no diplomacy, no treaties. Just one man, the emperor, holding the power to reshape history with a single order. But here's where things spiral out of control. The beginning of the end. Rome had conquered the world without drawing a single sword. Its enemies surrendered before the first battle began. The emperor held a power so absolute that the Senate, once the beating heart of Roman politics, had become nothing more than a stage for empty speeches. There were no uprisings, no rebellions, only obedience. But absolute power is a curse disguised as a gift. It started with paranoia. The emperor, drunk on his own invincibility, saw threats everywhere. Generals who had once been the backbone of Rome were now potential traitors. Senators who whispered in dark corners were seen as conspirators. The same weapon that had made Rome untouchable now turned inward. And then, one day, it happened. A single accusation, a single betrayal. One of Rome's top military commanders, fearing execution, did the unthinkable. He seized control of a nuclear facility, taking the city of Ravenna hostage. He demanded the emperor's abdication. Rome had faced revolts before, but this was different. This was a civil war where the first strike would be the last. The emperor refused to back down. He sent a message back, not with words, but with fire. A Roman nuke launched at Ravenna, one of Rome's own cities. The explosion wasn't just a military response. It was a message to every province, every commander, every citizen. Defiance would be met with annihilation. But the damage had already been done. The empire had shattered. The provinces, once loyal out of fear, now realized something terrifying. Rome wasn't invincible. Rome was insane. And so, as panic spread, one by one, the provinces turned against their masters. The empire that had ruled the world with nuclear fire was now burning from within. And this is where things get disturbingly real. The ancient nuclear dark age. Rome had fallen, not to an enemy invasion, not to barbarians at the gates, but to its own creation, the very power it once used to rule the world. As the empire collapsed, so did the world itself. The great cities of Rome, once bustling with philosophers, engineers, and traders, were now nothing more than craters of ash. The heart of civilization had become a graveyard. The Tiber River ran black with soot, and the Colosseum, once a symbol of Roman dominance, stood half-melted, a twisted monument to human arrogance. But the true horror wasn't just in Rome, it was in the lands beyond. The survivors, scattered remnants of a world that once thrived, had no idea what had happened. There were no historians left to write it down, no scientists left to explain it. The knowledge of Rome, its philosophy, its medicine, its engineering, all of it was lost. Imagine this, a farmer in Britannia, once living under Roman rule, now standing in his ruined village. His fields won't grow, the animals won't return. The sky is dark for months, maybe years. The rain burns his skin. He has no way of knowing why. To him, the gods have abandoned the world. And just like that, humanity was thrown back not centuries, but millennia. Think about what the world lost when Rome fell in real history. Roads, sanitation, mathematics. Now imagine losing everything. If Rome had nukes, we wouldn't have had the Renaissance. We wouldn't have had the Industrial Revolution. We might not even be here today. This wasn't just the fall of an empire, it was the fall of civilization itself. Conclusion. The Roman Empire, once the most powerful force on Earth, wiped itself out. Not because of a stronger enemy, but because of its own unchecked ambition. Now, take a step back. Look at our world today. We tell ourselves we're smarter, more advanced, more civilized. We have international treaties, peace agreements, and institutions dedicated to preventing war. But doesn't every empire think it's different until it's not? Rome believed it was eternal. So did every great power that followed. The British Empire, the Ottomans, the Mongols. All of them ruled through force. All of them believed their dominance would last forever. But today, we have something Rome never had: the power to end everything in an instant. Right now, 9 nations hold nuclear weapons, each one capable of wiping out entire cities, just like Rome could in our alternate timeline. One mistake, one miscalculation, and history doesn't just repeat itself, it ends. Think about this. During the Cold War, the world came within minutes of nuclear Armageddon. The Cuban Missile Crisis, the 1983 Soviet nuclear false alarm, we got lucky. But how long does luck last? And here's the terrifying truth. Rome didn't think it would destroy itself either. Every empire, every superpower, every nation believes it will handle its power responsibly, until paranoia takes over, until one leader makes one reckless decision, until history does what it always does, punishes arrogance. The Roman Empire thought it was unstoppable. So do we. But if history has taught us anything, it's that the fall always comes faster than anyone expects. Rome didn't have nukes, but we do. The question is, have we learned anything? That's all for today. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to show some love by hitting that like and subscribe button.